unauthorized, examples of unauthorized language are male, female, youngest, oldest, he, she. But you're saying that that was not an official communication, that has not been a directive.
That is not an official communication from the HAF, correct.
Okay, okay. And so your position to me is today that that is not policy and that they have not been so instructed.
That is correct.
This is social media
policy.
kerfuffle. I mean, this is not real.
Before we get started, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Capital Truthline, because this channel exists to say what the political class and the media refuse to say. What you're about to see is a perfect example of how far out of touch Washington leadership has become with reality, priorities, and common sense.
I have spoken repeatedly with the Secretary of the Army about replacing aging homes at Fort Leonard Wood in my home state, and there is no doubt in my mind that service members deserve better than they are getting right now. I was just there a few weeks ago. I toured the homes myself. I spoke to residents. I spoke to spouses. I spoke to children who lived in the homes. These homes need to be replaced. What concerns me is the Army doesn't seem to have a plan to replace this aging housing stock. So let me just ask you this. In your opinion, how does the availability or maybe lack of availability of quality military housing for service members and their families affect recruiting and retention?
Senator Hawley, good afternoon. The Army takes the care and quality of life of all of our service members and their families very seriously, so we are making and committed to investing in our housing within not just that, but within our daycare centers, child care, offering opportunities, expanding beyond that for spousal employment, to put kind of a whole package on the table to ensure that our facilities and our care and commitment towards family members is first class.
You say a whole package. When will we be seeing this package?
Senator, we continue to work on it, and I can take that question for the record, please.
Well, that's fine. I mean, but let me just say again, for the record, I've said this in the full committee, I'll say it again here, that I think we're past the point of continuing to kick this down the road. I mean, this is a problem now. Frankly, at Fort Leonard Wood, it was a problem a decade ago. But listen, I've been there. I mean, I've seen it myself. I've talked to the service members myself. I've been in their houses. I've been in their kitchens. I've looked at their bathrooms where there's mold growing. I've seen that they don't have places for their kids. I've seen the substandard living conditions, and it just isn't acceptable, General. You know what? I promised those service members that I'd be a royal pain in the you-know-what until something changed. So I'm keeping that commitment, and I'm going to continue it until something changes. And frankly, I've heard this now it's going on 2 years. I've only been in the Senate 3, but I've heard it continuously that, well, we'll get to it, we'll get to it, we'll get to it. Well, at Fort Leonard Wood, we haven't gotten to it. And I bet, if we went around the table here, I bet that the other members of the subcommittee would have the same situation in their state. So I'll give you the question for the record, but I just want to put on notice again, and you can take this back, that I want to see some progress on this, and I want to see it soon. And what I don't want to see are any more commitments from the Army that they're going to spend X number of dollars. This happened last year. We're going to commit X number of dollars to Fort Leonard Wood, and then as it turns out, $0 were spent on housing. I'm still ticked off about that. And I don't want to see it happen again, and I want to see progress made. So that's my piece. I think you understand where I'm coming from. General Miller, let me come to you. Can you help me with something here? Anderson Air Force Base, I understand. This is in Guam, of course. Leaders there recently received an official email that prohibited them from using pronouns or descriptors like he, she, youngest, oldest, male, or female. Why is that? I mean, what's going on?
Senator Hawley, thank you for that question. Actually, that is, we've been talking a lot about that because it was an email, from my understanding, that went out locally from one of the commanders there, and I don't remember at what level. I don't know if it was a group commander or the wing commander there. I believe that it was a Facebook post that went out based on a question. It is not the Air Force policy to not use pronouns. And so I think it was a social media, exacerbated by individuals that said that they were directed for that.
Okay, good. Well, I think that's progress. So you're saying, I'm looking at a news article here published August 31, 2022, saying that PACAF has sent this letter around. Leaders of the base are instructed, do not use pronouns, age, race, etc. And they go on. The unauthorized examples of unauthorized language are male, female, youngest, oldest, he, she. But you're saying that that was not an official communication. That has not been a directive.
That is not an official communication from the HAF. Correct.
Okay. And so your position to me is today that is not policy, and that they have not been so instructed.
That is correct.
This is a social media
policy.
kerfuffle. I mean, this is not real. It's not happening.
I don't know if it's not happening, but it is not an official policy from the Department of the Air Force.
Okay. I ask because part of the way it's been reported is that the rationale is to help with lethality and also recruiting. And it was curious as heck how not using he, she can help with lethality and how it's helping with recruiting. But I take your word for it that this is not policy. And
It should concern every American who cares about national security. Senator Josh Hawley is questioning military leadership, and what comes out of this exchange is absolutely staggering. Reports surface that leaders at an Air Force base were instructed not to use words like he, she, male, or female. Let that sink in. Not in a college classroom. Not at a corporate HR retreat. Inside the United States military. Hawley does what very few politicians do anymore. He asks the obvious question. How does banning basic language help us win wars? How does this increase lethality, readiness, or recruitment? And you can hear it in the general's response. There is no real answer. Instead, we get the standard Washington dodge. It wasn't official policy. It was just a local commander. Social media exaggerated it. But here's the truth they don't want to say out loud. That explanation isn't comforting. It's worse. Because it means someone in a position of authority, someone trusted with command over American service members, genuinely believed this was a productive use of time and leadership. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a mindset problem. And Hawley nails it when he presses further. The reported justification was that this language restriction would somehow help with lethality. That's when common sense finally breaks through the fog. While our adversaries are building ships, missiles, cyber weapons, and space capabilities, parts of our military leadership are obsessed with vocabulary policing. That is not strength. That is distraction. What makes this moment even more important is that it didn't happen in isolation. Earlier in the same hearing, Hawley confronted Army leadership about something that actually matters. Military families living in mold-infested, decaying housing. Homes that should have been replaced years ago. Conditions so bad that service members' children are being raised in unsafe environments. Hawley didn't read this from a report. He went there. He toured the homes. He spoke with families. He saw the mold, the damage, the neglect. And once again, what does he get from leadership? Promises. Packages. Commitments taken for the record. Meanwhile, millions promised for housing improvements were never spent. $0. That's not incompetence. That's failure. And this is the bigger picture Americans need to understand. This isn't about one email or one base. It's about priorities. Our soldiers need safe housing. Our military needs focus, discipline, and a relentless commitment to winning wars. Instead, too much of the bureaucracy is chasing ideological trends that have nothing to do with defense. Josh Hawley stood out in that room because he sounded like a normal American. Focus on readiness. Focus on families. Focus on lethality. Stop wasting time on nonsense. That's not radical. That's common sense. If we want a military that can actually deter and defeat our enemies, we need leadership that remembers what the mission is. And we need more accountability when that mission is forgotten.